Sentire Media.
Welcome to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food. I'm your host, Robert Campana, and join me as we delve into the rich heritage of genuine Italian food, exploring its legends, history, and traditions. Through important tips and insightful interviews with industry professionals, you'll gain a deeper understanding of authentic Italian food. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food, bringing you short pills of Italian food culture. So, today, I want to explore the history, briefly, of course, of the phrase that we see everywhere, especially on food labels, but not only, and I'm talking about made in Italy. So it is a phrase that now represents quality, represents craftsmanship, tradition, but it didn't always mean that. In fact, its origins are far more complex than what most people realize. So the original meaning of made in Italy did not always have a positive connotation that we think of today. The phrase actually began to appear more systematically, if you will, in the late 19th and 20th centuries, particularly after Italy's unification in 1861, and then later during the expansion of international trade. So at that time, Italy was not seen at all as an industrial powerhouse like Britain or Germany. And many Italian goods, especially food and textiles, were considered cheap, rural, or unsophisticated by foreign markets. So in some countries, marking products as made in Italy was actually a way to, quote unquote, warn customers, not to attract them. Because Italian exports were associated with poverty, mass immigration, and small-scale production rather than excellence. So originally, Made in Italy functioned more as a country of origin label, sometimes neutral and sometimes even negative, not really as a badge of prestige that we see today when we think about different products that Made in Italy represents, not just food products, of course. So how did the meaning even change? Well, everything kind of began to shift after World War II as Italy began to rebuild itself by focusing on what it did best. We're talking about things like craftsmanship, regional know-how, regional knowledge, and quality raw materials. And this transformation became especially visible in food, fashion, design, and mechanical precision. And by the 1970s and 1980s, the term made in Italy had evolved into something completely different than what it represented before. At this point, it started to resemble more of something like a symbol of excellence, a symbol of tradition, especially, and cultural identity, especially in food, because this shift was reinforced by things like strong regional traditions, smaller producers, and later even legal protections like what I talk about often, the PDO and the PGI designations. And Made in Italy stopped being just about where something was produced and started representing how it was produced. Respect for ingredients, if we want to talk about food, respect for time, respect for know-how passed down through the generations. So it started to take on a different type of connotation, not just within Italy, but around the world. So today, in the context of food, since this is a podcast mainly about food, Made in Italy represents something totally different than what it represented before. Today, it represents a badge of trust. It signals stuff like traceability, regulated production, connection to territory, and often higher quality ingredients. That's why it's so attractive all around the world to buy Made in Italy products. But here's the crucial point, and something that's very important for Stop Italian Sounding. The words made in Italy alone are not enough because a product could technically be made in Italy, but still be industrial, low quality, or even disconnected from tradition, of course. And that's why designations like PDO or PGI matter so much, because they protect not just geography, but the method, the history, the authenticity, the know-how, the identity of that actual product. And in food, true made in Italy means culture on a plate, not just a factory address. So it's very, very important. Anyway, if you're an Italian speaker, you may have noticed that the words made in Italy are always used in English, whether it's casual or colloquial conversation or an official documentation from the government. So why do Italians themselves say made in Italy instead of fatto in Italia? Because if nowadays it represents quality, craftsmanship, know-how, tradition, identity, why not say it in Italian? Well, the answer is this. Because from the very beginning, the phrase was created for an international market. English became, of course, the global language of trade, and Made in Italy was designed to speak to the world, not just Italians. because again, at the time it was kind of like a warning label, if you will. But over time, the English phrase itself became part of the brand that Made in Italy has turned into, and changing it would weaken its global recognition, of course. So even in Italy, we do keep the English term Made in Italy because its value lives beyond Italian borders. It is a global brand. In fact, it is one of the most recognized brands around the world. So Made in Italy did begin as simple and sometimes negative, but it did evolve into one of the world's most powerful cultural and economic identities, in food especially, but not only food. In fashion, of course, in machinery, in automation, in design. So Made in Italy nowadays does remind us that quality, tradition, and authenticity don't happen by accident. They are protected, they're cultivated, they're defended, and they are cherished, or valorizzato, as we say in Italian. Anyway, that is today's episode of Stop Italian Sounding, uncovering authentic Italian food. Thanks for listening. And as always, don't forget to choose real food and read the fine print on the labels. Grazie. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of authentic Italian cuisine. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more insights and interviews. Also, feel free to reach out with your thoughts or questions on our social media channels at Stop Italian Sounding or on our website, stopitasounding.com. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.